n'essimu ye ey'omu ngalo. Ekikola kyangu nnyo. Nyiga bunyizi star M65 star 8 # ogoberera ebikulagiriddwa oba okozese app ya MTN Momo. Ate kati okola ki olwaleero? MTN Mobile Money Uganda Limited erungamizibwa banka enkulu eya Uganda.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja Ankole segment. Learn about the fabrication of Ankole Kingdom from Nkore, the beautiful village of milk and honey at the detriment of Mpororo states.
Ankole as a kingdom came about in 1901.
Ankole is a colonial fabrication.
And all these small kingdoms were counties of the original Itara.
Ruhinda Ruanjunaki, who was Mchwezi,
the son of Wamara Rhanjanjurwabwera.
And that starts the rulers of Ankole called Vahinda.
Who are the pre-colonial heroes from Ankole?
Is it Rutaraka, Muguta, is it Intare, Kitabanyoro? Find out from Tuko Pamoja.
Daily screenings at Ham Cinemax in Wandegea at 11:30, 2 p.m., 4:30 and 7 p.m. To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
Welcome back from that break, and we're glad that you're still with us here in UBC Lunchtime News. Now, in our business news, the African Union is spearheading an exercise in which all experts attached to the minerals sectors of member countries will be certified and enabled to work on the continent to support the fledgling mining industry. The Accord will also provide a system through which mineral quantities will be reported.
The African Union is mobilizing African mineral experts and geologists to collect data and report the continent's mineral and energy resources, aiming to unlock the full potential of African mineral resources by employing African competent persons. The goal is to promote standards for African minerals on the global market.
Before now, in mineral industry in Africa, we use standards from Europe, from America, from Canada, from Australia, with different conditions suitable for their continent. But they bring it here and impose on us, and then we go with it because we never had one. But we realized later that in Africa, we are human beings just like them, but we are different in terms of cultural orientation. So there is need to take our own destiny into our own hand by introducing our own standard, which was not there before now.
And that's why we looked at it. Can we develop an African code? Not as a rival to them, but also to take care of the peculiarities of the African geoscientists, the African experts themselves, who normally under global conditions would not be able to certify because they are not part of those foreign organizations. In Africa, it's only South Africa through SAMREC that has that. So all the rest of the 53 countries in Africa and geoscientists cannot sign.
During the African Minerals and Energy Resource Clarification and Management System and Public Sensitization Workshop, the Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Energy emphasized the need to build local competent capacity and add value to mineral industry.
So we are aware that we must develop the in-country capacity to do this. Apart from the facilities in terms of infrastructure, we must support these facilities with electricity, but also ensure that our road network supports these industries or processing facilities to better operate in these areas where we are mining from. But also critically, we must develop the human resource capacity because these are new areas we are entering into. We must see more mining processors, chemical engineers, industrial chemists that will support our value addition drive.
Uganda will be required to report its mineral quantity to the African Mineral Development Center out of its geological and other surveys. Sada Mubale, UBC News, Kampala.
The Minister for Finance, Matia Kasaija, has urged microfinance providers to offer educational services to customers to ensure they trade with an informed mind. At the branch opening of Gold Mine Financial Services, the minister warned against non-compliance with taxes.
The Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, Matia Kasaija, has issued a warning to those not compliant with taxes, saying they hinder development. The minister, who was the guest of honor at the opening of Goldmine Financial Services Kabalagala branch, called on Ugandans to join efforts to sustain the economy.
Your economy is doing well, but with a bit of hitches. You know, when I did the Karnataka thing, I was certain because I knew my figures very well. If it wasn't for COVID, I think now the economy should be growing about 8%. But by now we should, because we lost 2 years. 2 years is quite a period. And then things retracted, investors retracted. So that's why now we are growing at about 6% now. We are aiming at 7% next financial year. So my also idea, I would very much recommend you, as the business picks up, don't be a Kampala people alone.
At the occasion, the minister urged microfinance providers to ensure the improvement of the soundness of financial sector and enhance the efficacy of monetary policy transformation. This includes ensuring that minimum capital requirements are commensurate with economic growth and inflation developments, aligned with financial system developments, and sufficient to address emerging risks.
But it calls for a business owner to subject themselves to being accountable to other people before making any major decision he is going to bring into the board. Even if he is the owner of the business, if the board says no, he is not going to do it. That is subjecting himself to the board.
Goldmine Financial Services has been expanding since establishment in 2011, offering financial services to Ugandans, including loans and financial management services.
Our vision is, our mission is to help businesses and individuals thrive through financing and advisory services.
And now into some international news. From the start of the war in Ukraine, drones have played an important role in carrying out surveillance missions and long-range attacks. Since last year, a new type of drone has come into the picture and is changing how war is waged on the front lines. They are called first-person view drones and have become a nightmare for soldiers on both sides of the battlefield.
It's critical now that both sides of the war between Ukraine and Russia are using first-person view drones on the front lines. The drones are small, cheap, and deadly.
The enemy has adopted a new method starting approximately 6 months ago, if not earlier.
Here in South Donbass, Ukrainian soldiers are training to increase their speed, knowing that a first-person view, or FPV, may be racing after them and ready to strike. Now, more than ever, they realize that their next deployment to the front lines could be their last.
One of the biggest challenges during evacuation is the presence of FPV drones. This often leads to delays of up to 12 hours or more. Every delay risks lives.
FPV drones are mounted with cameras that stream back live images to drone pilots who can see those pictures through virtual reality headsets or goggles and control the drones using tablets. Soldiers load an explosive onto the drone, which then slams into its target, all while sending back a first-person view of the impact and explosion. They are disposable. Ukrainian officials told VOA they cost just about $300 a piece. They are light and fly close to the ground, under the radar and hard to detect, unlike their conventional predecessors, which are easy to spot and easy prey for anti-aircraft guns. Their low cost and effectiveness mean that since mid-2023, the drones have appeared in swarms. They hit harder and deeper. This is also thanks to more advanced retransmitter or remote control units that enable them to go farther into enemy territory.
United States weapons sales to Israel have been under increased scrutiny amid outrage over the deaths of 33,000 people in Gaza, a figure that includes 7 aid workers killed in an Israeli airstrike this week. However, according to reports, the Biden administration is showing no signs of conditioning its military support for Israel.
A ship operated by aid group World Central Kitchen left Gaza and returned to Cyprus Wednesday, its food aid undelivered after Israeli airstrikes killed 7 of the charity group's workers, including a Canadian-American dual citizen, increasing demands that the Biden administration restrict its military aid to Israel. The White House shows no signs of doing so.
We are still supporting their right to defend themselves, and we're going to continue to do that. We're also going to see what the results of the investigation is. I'm not going to get ahead of decisions that haven't been made yet.
Israel is the largest recipient of U.S. aid, nearly $4 billion a year, most of it in military assistance. Under U.S. law, the administration must notify Congress of weapons transfer to Israel that's larger than $25 million. Since the October 7th Hamas attack, Congress has been notified of 4, said Josh Paul, former director at the State Department agency that handles weapons transfers.
2 of those were under the foreign military sales system, and both of those the Biden administration used an emergency authority to set aside the regular statutory congressional notification period. 2 of them have been via the direct commercial sales process and have been notified to Congress, but with less visibility because there is less information that is provided to the public on direct commercial sales.
In addition, a Department of Defense official who spoke to VOA under a condition of anonymity confirmed reporting by the Washington Post that since October 7th, over 100 arms transfers to Israel have taken place without informing Congress because the packages were structured to fall below the notification threshold.
When they are publicly saying that Israel needs to take more steps to protect civilians, but privately pushing through hundreds of millions of dollars worth of weapons, there's really no credibility when the Biden administration refuses to use the leverage that it does have. And the most significant source of leverage that the United States has is the massive amount of arms provided to Israel.
Since Harry Truman recognized Israel minutes after its founding in 1948, American presidents have supported the country almost all unconditionally, except President George H.W. Bush, who in 1991 gave Israel an ultimatum to freeze settlements on Palestinian land in exchange for $10 billion in loan guarantees. That approach worked, but not all agree that restricting aid will affect change.
The emotive issue of providing for a country's means for their own defense can sometimes trigger different responses in different theaters. It's just been a sort of inexact tool for the U.S. in the past. And so I think that's internalized within this administration right now. And so I think that coupled with the president's longstanding commitment to Israel is why you haven't seen any real steps taken on this front.
President Joe Biden said in a statement he is outraged and heartbroken by the deaths of World Central Kitchen workers, his latest stern rebuke over Israel's war conduct. Still, he refuses to respond to the question many are asking.
Would you consider conditioning military aid?
Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News.
Turkey's nationwide local elections this week dealt Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's ruling AK party its worst electoral defeat, signaling what analysts say is a momentous change in Turkey's political direction. We have more details.
Turkey's main opposition, CHP party's sweeping gains in nationwide local elections are a significant reversal in the party's fortunes, analysts say, considering President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's re-election last year.
After the loss of the May elections for the opposition, everybody's thought that the opposition was in a state of despair, but that doesn't seem to be the case, and it's a really turning point I think, for Turkish political landscape.
Erdogan put himself at the forefront, leading the campaign to retake Istanbul from incumbent mayor Ekrem İmamoğlu. But İmamoğlu extended his control of the city, capturing strongholds of Erdogan's AK party, including the Beyoğlu district, where Erdogan grew up and had a personal power base. Near 70% inflation and 50% interest rates, analysts say, were key factors in AK party's defeat. Analysts say İmamoğlu has portrayed his leadership as inclusive, and analysts say that has been a factor in his success, burnishing his credentials as a potential presidential challenger. Ankara's mayor, Mansur Yavaş of the CHP, also secured a landslide victory. Analysts say the two mayors have managed to win over religious voters, extending their party's reach beyond its staunchly secular base. Experts say this opens the door to success for them in parts of Turkey that have been Erdogan's strongholds, such as Anatolia.
These are places that are considered to be religiously conservative, or at least conservative, and CHP has never been successful in those places before. And that's also valid for Central Anatolia. Central Anatolia is usually much more nationalist, much more religiously sensitive, but that for the first time they've been successful.
The March 31st local elections have changed Turkey's electoral map, with the CHP controlling many provincial cities for the first time in a generation. Analysts say that, with local mayors having considerable power to shape daily life, the opposition has a major opportunity.
CHP has been granted a chance to show how they govern for the next 5 years. So I think it's a huge opportunity for the main opposition to showcase their governing skills in parts of the country where they could never win elections.
Analysts say the performance of CHP in these mayoral elections could determine the outcome of the 2028 presidential elections, at a time when Erdogan's party is struggling to tame rampant inflation. They say that prospect appears to be real. Dorian Jones, VOA News, Istanbul.
And into sports, in line with the directive from the head of public service, Lucy Nachobe, for all government institutions to have a dedicated date for physical exercise, the Public Procurement and Disposal Authority, PPDA, has commenced implementation. The executive director of PPDA, Benson Tudamye, emphasizes the contribution of this exercise in building teamwork and enhancing employees' health. He says the initiative will not only improve health but also enhance the effectiveness of employees.
The directive, so that we are here, all of us, we do a similar activity, similar exercise. It will also enhance team building, even closeness. You'll find the top, like the executive director, maybe has not been networking and interacting with the lowest staff. But in this exercise, since we are doing the same, we also bring more bonding between the high-level staff and the lower cadre staff. It is also there, of course, if you do exercises, first of all, diseases like hypertension, diabetes will reduce. So we look for the menu that actually can handle that and can take care of different categories, the young, the middle age, and the old. And definitely, as you said, lifestyle diseases will reduce. And we will continue the gospel, the Lucy Nachobe's gospel of healthy living. In terms of output, but in terms of quality, because people will be positive thinking because they are healthy. Maybe in the next 5 years, if we analyze and evaluate and we find that staff are not falling sick, then we can reduce them, remove them from the medical scheme, and maybe keep their dependents. But this also should reflect in our homes. so that if you are healthy, you can also, these are simple exercises. You can also take it back home.
Hundreds of spectators have gathered at St. Peter's Church grounds in Butembo district to witness the climax of the Museveni Helen Seku Cup, which has been facilitated by Helen Seku, the Commissioner General of Patriotism. In the final match, Butembo Town Council emerged victorious over Petete Town Council, while the Petete Rural Soccer Club secured third place. Present to witness the final games were the State Minister for Youth,
in Butembo. Next time our trophy will be branded with the Musei's trophy, and we shall make sure Musei signs on it, so that you have Musei's signature in your office. So on behalf of the organizing committee and the sponsors of this event, and on behalf of the owner of the tournament, General Museveni Kabuta, the President of Uganda, allow me to hand over this trophy to you as winners of this year's tournament. Christmas Day shall be back with a bigger tournament for everyone to enjoy. Allow me also to request my sister, Commissioner Helen Seku, Honorable Counsel, the lawyer of the President.
Now, finally, Arsenal overcame the absence of Bukayo Saka to move back to the top of the Premier League table with a victory over struggling Luton at Emirates Stadium. Leading scorer Saka was missing after suffering a knock against Manchester City at the weekend, but Mikel Arteta's much-changed side did enough to defeat their hard-working opponents and move back above Liverpool at the summit.
Barkley under pressure. Luton will now get some treatment for their player. Some heroic defending though. Smith Rowe did well. Odegaard onto Havertz again, looking for chance here. There's the opening goal, rifled in by Martin Odegaard, linking beautifully with Kai Havertz, and Arsenal, they just needed that opportunity and they grabbed it.
Yeah, it all started with Smith Rowe, didn't it? Working hard and winning the ball back in the midfield. And then it's a really lovely 1-2 between Odegaard. Gives the ball to Havertz, gets it on the return, and he's just got his head down, keeps his eye on the ball.
Smith Rowe in space, has got time to pick out a pass, and it's in! 2-0 to Arsenal!